We've all been subject to a hell of a lot of rules over the last 12 months. And in today's video, I want to talk about the increasing propensity amongst the general public for breaking many of these rules, apart from one, and it's a significant exception, and I want to try and ask why it is. So if you do like my content and you want to see more of these types of videos, please subscribe to The Imperfect Individual, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified anytime I upload some new videos. Okay, so as we know, 12 months down the line now, we live in uncharted times, unprecedented times, where the state has imposed a whole litany of ever-changing rules, regulations and laws that we are all expected to abide by in order to help to defeat a virus, commonly referred to as the enemy. So we all know we're in that situation, and there's a lot of conversation. Not enough conversation actually, but there are different takes on how much these rules have impinged on our freedoms, on our liberty, on our ways of life, and to what extent it is acceptable for the state to have that much say in our lives. I think I've made it perfectly and abundantly clear what my stance is on this. However, I just wanted to talk about what I'm seeing with regard to the behaviour of the general public with regard to their abeyance or non-abeyance with many of the rules. Now, I saw an interview on YouTube a few days ago. It was an interview with Lord Sumption, who's a retired High Court judge, and he was talking on this subject. And it was really interesting. One of the things that he remarked was that he said he thinks civil disobedience has already started. And when I heard that, when I heard him say that, I thought, oh yeah, he's right, because he was talking about how people quietly are breaking rules. And I agree with him. I suddenly thought, oh yeah, actually, that is a type of civil disobedience, or it is actual civil disobedience is already occurring. And there's something really intriguing to me is that I would say now that the majority of people, and I think it's a large majority, are regularly flouting many rules that have been brought in support of lockdown. Regularly and frequently. Because I see it. I'd say pretty much everybody I personally know has. And I also, when I'm driving, when I'm out walking, when I'm driving, I see loads of people around, and there's a huge difference, a massive contrast to this lockdown. Is this the fourth lockdown now? The third or the fourth? I don't know. I lose count. Anyway, it's at least the third lockdown. Anyway, I see a massive difference in the approach to the public now. Compliance levels compared to the first lockdown, which started on March the 23rd last year, so a year ago. Back then, I reckon compliance levels were above 99%. I remember going out for a walk and you just didn't see anybody. There was no traffic on the road. It was like a ghost town. Well, now, it just, apart from pubs and shops and other, social places where there's social interaction not being open, it just feels pretty normal in terms of the amount of public that you see. It feels normal. You see the roads are very, very busy. So clearly there are many people now who are making non-essential journeys on a regular basis. They're meeting up with friends and family, going into their houses, going for walks with them, picking and choosing which rules to break. And that is possibly the civil disobedience that is happening. To put a percentage on the number of people, I would say now the number of people who either completely disagree, who think that there is something maybe slightly sinister going on, who have lockdown fatigue, who think it's all a load of nonsense, who disagree with it in any way. I reckon we're up around 60, 70% maybe of people now as evidenced by the fact that so many people are choosing to break the rules. It's interesting as well, a concept that I think's playing out is that there appears to be this situation whereby there's a section of society who are advocates for lockdown, advocates and sticklers for the rules. Yet at the same time, maybe when they think no one's looking, no one's paying attention, breaking the rules themselves. If truly you do believe that these non-pharmaceutical interventions are essential, and I know there's a conversation around this, I'm not saying there's not, but if you truly do believe that they are essential in protecting the health of our fellow citizens, in defeating this virus, then there would be full compliance with all of the rules all the time. So what this says to me is that there's a lot of virtue signalling going on from people who are purporting and pretending to support all of the initiatives and rules, whilst at the same time breaking them themselves, which I find really, really interesting. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me because, you know, we live in a time where virtue signaling is rife. Now, we can look at this through an optimistic lens or a pessimistic lens. Optimistic lens would be, well, clearly there are a lot of people now who are fed up, who just want it all to end and who are prepared to break the rules and show, you know, civil disobedience in an effort to maybe bring about some level of change. However, what is the one exception? Well, one exception, and again, I am not giving my own personal view on anything here, I'm just telling you what I observed. The one exception is you don't see that translating into non-compliance with mask wearing in indoor spaces, where of course it is mandated, as we all know, which doesn't make sense to me, except it does make sense to me. So if you've got that many people in their millions, tens of millions, flouting coronavirus rules on a regular basis, which clearly, quite clearly, we have. As ever, go and step out your door and have a look. You'll see it yourself if you've not already noticed, but I'm sure you have. If there are that many people who are choosing to break a raft of other rules, that would surely translate also into a significant proportion and percentage of people choosing not to wear masks, to break that rule as well. However, that doesn't appear to be happening, or if it is, it's just a fraction of a percent. And what does this tell us? Because it doesn't make sense. Or does it make sense? So I'm going to ask you, what does that tell you? And does it make sense to you? Because for me, here's how it makes sense. I think when you think that nobody else is looking, or when you think that you can blend into a crowd, then you can act a certain way. When you know that somebody is looking, or the general public are there, and you could be quite overt, you could stand out from the crowd, then you may choose to behave in a different way, and you may choose to comply. And I think there's some level of cowardice that is the reason for that. I think people are happy, like I say, happy to blend in, break rules if they're blending in, because they won't be singled out and they won't feel awkward, they won't feel vulnerable. But to go into a shop and be one of the very few who is showing your face, well, that does take a degree of leadership, a degree of bravery, a degree of courage. It doesn't take that much. It really doesn't, but it takes a degree. It does. And the social proof isn't there in those environments. Whereas it is, if you're just walking out down the street, if you're seeing other groups of people who are gathering, you know, in the park or walking along the canal or whatever, if you're seeing loads and loads and loads of cars out on the road, clearly other people making non-essential journeys, going about their business, you can just melt into the crowd. So we're in this situation, I believe now, where there is a form of cowardly civil disobedience, where people are feeling comfortable with breaking rules that they're not comfortable with, but which there's going to be no comeback on them if they break the rules, but they're choosing not to break the one rule that would lead to, like I say, to them being quite overtly different to the vast majority of other people in the fact that they wouldn't have a rag over their face. I think this is quite interesting. I think it says a lot, again, about who we are as a society and where we are. I'm sure that there would be some counter argument to this that would run along the lines of, well, yeah, but wearing a mask gives an illusion of safety and we should do it to protect others. And I've heard that before, although I've never heard that argument elaborated on, or I've never heard an argument involving, you know, some evidence and some proof that that measure works. And again, I'm not challenging the official guidance on this video. I'm not doing that. I'm merely asking the question and seeing whether anybody else can see similar patterns and whether they would agree with me that we are seeing a cowardly civil disobedience on show. Like I say, now, that does mean, now, I think, that there is a vast majority of people, now, not a vast majority, but a majority of people who will be open to persuasion, who can see not only the media narrative and the mainstream narrative with regard to everything that's happened, but they can see, or they're in a position to at least consider other opinions and other angles, simply because they're endorsing that other angle and that other narrative through their behaviour most of the time. So that's the optimistic angle. The negative and the pessimistic angle is, like I say, when it really comes to it, when it comes to showing a little bit of leadership and a little bit of balls, most people aren't doing it. So there we go. So I'm gonna do another video, hopefully later on today, I'll upload, which is reasons for optimism about where we are, good things to come out of the last year, because there are some, and it's important that we touch on that. This video is neither optimistic nor pessimistic. It's just yet another angle to this whole charade that I find fascinating, intriguing, interesting, and wondering psychologically what's going on in society. So let me know what you think of what I've said. Are we experiencing a type of civil disobedience at the moment? How effective, in your opinion, is it? Is it a type of cowardly civil disobedience? And is there any hope that we can get to the next level? Okay, great to speak to you again, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.